What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Blitz Sports Media. I'm Ryan Linkletter, and I am here with the fantasy football guru, Danny. How we doing?
Not too bad tonight. Not too bad.
Good to have you back here. We had Pete last week. It was a
Yeah.
great show. Good to have you back for probably the best slate of games we're getting uh, over the entire season. Week 11, you got Chiefs Broncos, you got Rams Seahawks, you got Lions Eagles, Bears Vikings is going to be a good one. Bucks Bills. Like there are so many good games during this early Week 11 slate. And what do you know? Deontay Thornton listed as the wide receiver one in Las Vegas. Let's go. We got our boy Deontay Thornton locked in. I'm going to have him
Mhm.
scoring a touchdown in one of my parlays this week. So hopefully Deontay Thornton finds his way to the end zone and we have a nice day. Danny, before we get into these questions real quick, make sure you guys drop them all in the comments before we start getting into this video. What are you looking at most between week 11 and what stands out to you heading into the week?
Uh, DFS wise, I mean, even if fantasy wise, it's probably going to be that Steelers Bengals game going into that game. Um, the Steelers can't stop anybody, and I know they play better at home, but the problem is that they haven't stopped any wide receivers at all this year. Flacco's coming in hot. Chase Brown's starting to come along on that offense too right now. Noah Fant's been kind of played well here recently at tight end form and stuff. And the Steelers haven't really proved other than well, the Indianapolis game, but the 5 turnovers makes a difference in that game. The same thing against New England when they played against them. New England had 5 turnovers too as well. In both those games, there was only one score games. If this teams don't have those turnovers, it could be a different story for the Steelers right now. So, and the Ravens are breathing down their throats, so they're going to have to win this game to have a chance to keep the lead and have a chance to even win the division as the season goes on. But that game right there is probably going to have some of the biggest factors in the AFC later in the season, I think.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite fantasy games to target overall. We'll talk about all of those guys going into this game. And before we get into the serious questions, we got to get to our boys' question, Deontay Thornton. Give away Trey Tucker and Jack Beck for a $25 gift card to DoorDash. Personally, I think we could honestly snag them for a $30 gift card. I feel like 25
Yes,
maybe
definitely.
underselling them just a little bit. Maybe the $30 gift card to DoorDash gets it done. But let's get right into this video. Jared, welcome back this week. Should I trade Kamani Vidal / Troy Franklin for Rashad White and Xavier Worthy PPR redraft? Danny, go ahead.
I think this one really comes down how soon Marion Hampton's coming back. If he's going to be out longer than they think they are, I think the Vidal Franklin side's probably the better play. But if he's going to come back in the next couple of weeks, I know he worked on the side this week. Um, I'd stick with that side. But if he's coming back sooner than later, I'd probably go with the Rashad White worthy pick because White's still going to have some some of the passing game once Bucky comes back, and who knows when Bucky's coming back? That's another one we run into as well too. But I think Franklin and Worthy at this point in the season, they're basically the same guy since Rasheed Rice came back to the Kansas City offense. Worthy's been second fiddle and even probably behind Kelsey a little bit too on that part. So I'd probably lean Vidal Franklin just till we know really what the Marion Hampton situation is going to be because hopefully Bucky comes back here in a few weeks, and when he comes back, he's going to be the number one guy, and Rashad White's going to be limited to being just a passing down guy or just a spot series
Yeah.
or two. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of leaning towards the other side of this. And
Okay.
that's because I think Bucky Irving returns next week. Rashad White
Okay.
is going to have next to no value after this coming week. And I know I had Kamani Vidal as a sell high. Troy Franklin's the guy that I look at here. I think there's a lot of people that think Troy Franklin is not really a consistent player or his play is going to fall off. He's very touchdown dependent. Like this guy ranks among the top 10 guys and wide receivers among red zone targets, right?
Mhm.
He's second on the Broncos in snaps. He's actually led in targets over the last 3 weeks overall. Like his volume is good and he's also getting valuable targets. And if Bo Nix is hitting on more of these throws, his production could match the level of a low end wide receiver, too. So
Mhm.
I actually really like Troy Franklin a little bit more than Xavier Worthy. I'm a little bit worried that with Worthy's role with Rasheed Rice healthy is just not good enough. I know he has a 24% first read target share, but his his targets during that first read are just not very good. They're
Uh,
underneath targets. They're not very valuable targets. And you mentioned Kelsey, who's actually been a little bit better in terms of
yeah.
yards after the catch with Rasheed Rice back. So I'm a little bit hesitant about Xavier Worthy. I think Kamani Vidal, Marion Hampton hasn't even practiced yet. So you're at least getting 2 weeks, let's say, of Kamani
That's
Vidal. It's a little bit more than you're going to get here out of Rashad White. So, personally, leading that side of the trade, Pitbull or Jameis Winston. I don't know who Pitbull is, but
I'm not sure either.
Jameis Winston, I think this week is a scary play for me against
Mhm.
Green Bay. I understand that JMO is definitely, a guy that goes out there, he's going to air raid it, and he's gonna throw the rock, and he'll sling that thing. But
Yeah.
the turnovers are a concern against Green Bay. The sacks are definitely a big time, concern for me with Jameis as well. And I think a lot of people that feel good about him streaming him should pivot to another guy, Jacoby Brissett against San
Yeah.
Francisco, a team that hasn't been able to get to the passer. So with Jameis, I know there's a lot of hype surrounding him. I would pause the brakes a little bit. I think he's definitely in for a bust performance this week. All right, next question here. Danny, start one flex full PPR. DK Metcalf, RJ Harvey, Quinshawn Judkins, Jamison Williams, Zay Flowers, and BTJ. That is a lot of options there for
It's a
sure.
lot of guys. Ah, wow. Jenkins has probably got the safest floor in my opinion. Harvey probably maybe more the upside because when it comes to Metcalf, they run those tight ends like crazy in that offense, and he seems like he's not the primary guy to look at. J-Mo had his big game last week, so who knows if he can do it back to back. He hasn't proved it this year. Flowers has been consistent, but that game, it's there's chance of wind gusts of over 30 miles an hour, and they're right on the lake. So it's a little bit different having wind gusts 30 miles an hour on the lake than it is some wind gusts probably 30 miles at the Steelers game. BTJ, he's just got to be on the field. If he's not on the field, there's no use of playing him at all. But I'd probably lean Junkins because the floor's safer. But if you need it upside, I'd probably go Harvey here. Just take a chance in his first start.
Yeah, I think I'm leaning. I got to go with my must start guy. I think heading into this one, oh man, it's so tough though. I honestly think out of this group, it's gonna be crazy, but I like Zay Flowers this week out
Mhm.
of this grouping. I think Flowers gives a lot of potential in terms of this Cleveland Browns defense and how you attack them. Perimeter receivers are definitely one of the places that they struggle with. Target share is still good, sitting around that 28% mark, exactly what we want to see. And he has a really favorable upcoming schedule post after this game. I like his rest of the season outlook. I think with Zay, I know the weeks have been down a little bit here in the middle of the season, hasn't lived up to how he started the year, but I think he's a good play this week. And I know we mentioned RJ Harvey. Casey's run defense has been really good. Judkins, Baltimore's run defense has been
It's
very good over the
improved.
past few weeks.
Mhm.
JMO, Philadelphia is very good against perimeter receivers. BTJ, we never know what we're going to get from him. And then DK Metcalf, I have him as a must sit this week. So I think out of that grouping, Zay Flowers is a guy that I trust the most. Next question here. Chase Brown or Quinshawn Judkins? What are your thoughts, Danny?
Brown. There should be plenty of fireworks in that game. I'm going with them. I mean, I like Junkins this week. He's probably the best offensive player for the Browns going against the Ravens this week. But
Yeah.
Browns a play. There is no who's their backup? He's out this week. So Browns gonna
Samaje
have the
Perine.
Pre Ryan. He's out this week. So Browns gonna have the whole probably play 90% again like he did last week or a couple weeks ago when they played against the Bears when P Ryan was out. But yeah, I'd go Brown. I mean, there should be plenty of offense in that game. There's going to have plenty of opportunities. If they're down, he maybe will get into the passing game too as well.
Yeah, I think for sure that Chase Brown is going to be a very solid play this week. I have him as a must start, and I'm starting him over Quinshawn Judkins. Last time against the Steelers, had over 100 rushing yards on a limited amount of attempts too, and he didn't really have that receiving volume. I know the past 2 weeks he scored 19.9 points through the air, which is really good numbers for a running
Yeah.
back. He's starting to get to that point where he's top 5 in target share as well. So Chase Brown, a guy that with Joe Flacco is now looking like we thought he'd look like with Joe Burrow, where we drafted him at the start of the season. So good thing for people that stuck with Chase Brown because he's starting to be a borderline RB1 here in the closing part of the season. And what's encouraging, Danny, is he has one of the most favorable schedules to close the
Yes.
year as well. So Chase
And
Brown's a name that you're going to have
yeah,
to keep starting for sure.
exactly. And Burr says he's coming back for the Thanksgiving game, so he may be back in the lineup as well too. So just add more firepower to that offense.
100%. The Bengals offense, man, the guys that I want right now for sure. All right, start one QB, JJ McCarthy or Baker Mayfield this week. Danny, who you going with?
I'm going with McCarthy this week. They're going against the Bears. Baker's getting to go playing against the Bills on the road, weather conditions and stuff, and that oblique injuries kind of limited his running ability, which kind of gives a plus side for Baker on that side. Besides his passing ability, with his limited receivers they have. I mean, he's got Buka, Tez Johnson's played well, Otten's played well here for him and stuff, but he's not the same Baker he was at the beginning of the season. McCarthy's going against the Bears. I mean, Bears have been one of those teams that has allowed passing allow quarterbacks to pass whenever and however they want against them and stuff. And one thing that's nice is he's not afraid to throw the ball downfield. and against the Bears, he may be able to have a chance to the ball downfield, and then Jefferson's already saying this is going to be a game where he's going to kind of show out a little bit because there's been some talk from the Bears side saying they kind of shut him down the first game. So Jefferson's going to be ready for this game too as well.
Yeah. I think it's honestly closer than a lot of people want to admit because
Yeah.
Baker's going against a tough Bills defense that have absolutely shut down a lot of passing games this year. They held both Drake May and Patrick Mahomes, two of the top four guys in MVP odds right now, to 12 points or less. Like this defense is very good at slowing down quarterbacks, and I'm fading Baker this week. I like JJ McCarthy. I think his legs also are a factor that,
Yeah.
play well into what Chicago struggles with. I know their strength on that Bears defense is definitely their run stopping ability, which is not like it's their elite by any means, but the Bears allow yards, right? And if
Mhm.
they don't first turnovers, it's a very fortunate day for fantasy players on the other side of the
Yes.
ball. And I think with JJ McCarthy, he's looked better since he returned from IR, but he's still not clicking at and firing at all cylinders. But I think this is the matchup where KOC just kind of KOC against bad defenses is able to scheme some stuff up. And I think this
Yeah.
week, JJ McCarthy should have some easy throws that he'll be able to get going. All right, next one here. Kate Otten or Colston Loveland, full PPR.
I I
This
love
one's
Loveland this week, but the Otten's has been putting up some numbers without Evans in the lineup. Who knows when Godwin's going to come back? So he's been a prominent player in their offense. But I would lean Loveland, but Otten's I find play this week as well too. I mean, I know there's some weather conditions in Buffalo, but I lean Loveland. One thing that Minnesota does, they love to rush the quarterback. So if Caleb's got some doesn't have time, Loveland may be the guy you may be looking at there. Quick passes to get the ball out of his hands before the rush gets onto him too. So I'd probably lean Loveland, but Otten's a fine play as well.
Yeah, I'm probably leaning Loveland for you know all intents and purposes here. I can't even talk right now, but Kate Otten's going against the Buffalo Bills, who have not allowed a tight end to go over 50 yards this year. I know the target share has been really good, and he's putting up some nice fantasy numbers, but he actually has 0 red zone targets since week 5, Danny. So
Damn.
if he's not finding the end zone
No.
and he's going against a really tough matchup, he's in for a bust performance. And I think a lot of people are going to be disappointed with Kate Otten this week. They're thinking, "Oh man, this is a for sure starter. He's locked into our lineup." I'm not so sure. I'm not so sold. I think that with Colston Loveland, obviously it's a riskier play considering the fact that Minnesota is also pretty solid against tight ends, but the Bears have a lot of other, offensive weapons that Ben Johnson can utilize and the Minnesota's focused on. And I honestly think that, you know, Minnesota's blitzing ability with Brian Flores is probably going to force more throws over the middle of the field, which could benefit Colston Loveland as well. So I would go Loveland in that situation. All right, the Frogs are
Mhm.
back here. Started Travion Henderson. Congratulations to everybody that started Travion Henderson. Had him as a must start. He cashed in for all of us. Need one more running back and one flex. He's got Rico, Kyron, Harvey, Swift, Woody, JMO, also Ottener, Loveland, and then we just answered that one. But
Mhm.
a lot of great running backs here. Who are you
Yes,
going with?
very. Uh, who's Carolina's at Atlanta? Okay, Kyron, just the floor safer on that part. I this one's tough. I'm not sure really. I'd probably lean Kyron a little bit more. I mean, Rico's probably a good start as well, and I think Harvey's got some upside. Swift has been consistent here lately. Damn, Woody too. So, I'd still lean Kyron. I think there's more upside with Kyron for scoring touchdowns and stuff. I mean, Woody may have a cut chance or two since they're playing against the Titans, and they may be up on him more. They may be running the ball a little bit more, but probably lean more Kyron. That game's probably gonna be a little more competitive probably than the other. Well, other than the Harvey against Kansas City defense, I it's tough, but there's upside there. It's really what you want, what you're depending on. I think Kyron has probably the best floor in my opinion.
I think I'm going with an interesting one here. So I'm going
Okay.
Rico against Atlanta. Atlanta
Okay.
has struggled against the run this year, through a majority of games. It's actually funny. One of the only running backs they stopped was James Cook, and they won
Yeah.
that game against the Bills. But since then, their run defense has been abysmal for Atlanta. Their strength is rushing the passer, and Rico also, had a nice performance against them not too long ago. So I like Rico in my starting lineup this week. And then the other guy I'm going with in the flex over Kyron Williams, over DeAndre Swift, over RJ Harvey,
You're going
Over
Woody.
Jameson Williams is Woody
Woody.
Marks. He scored 27 points last time they played the Titans. He played 80% of snaps last week. He is going to have a heavy workload this weekend.
Yeah, he
We
should.
expect him to be in a positive game script. This defense is not allowing the Titans to go off against them, even if they're coming off a bye week. They are going to be in a favorable game script. Woody is going to have the volume, and he's going to be in for a really strong performance. Kyron's going against a very tough Seattle run defense.
Yeah.
Them and Los Angeles are neck and neck with each other in yards allowed this year on the ground per play. So it's a tough matchup for them. Obviously, Kyron's a tough guy to bench, but I think Woody's upside this week is extremely high, and he's a player that I find myself finding ways to get Woody Marks in my starting lineup, even if that's benching a guy like Kyron Williams, who's been so good over the last few years, and obviously at times this season. But it's Woody Marks time. It's time. The time has arrived. All right, 12 team, 1 flex, PPR, 5-5. Trade away Amari Demercado, DeAndre Swift, Rondé Gadsden for Tyler Warren and Amari and Hampton. My running backs are Kyron, Hendy, Swift, Demercado, Corum, Mason, and Tootin. What are your thoughts?
I'd do it. I mean, Gadsden's played well here lately, but Tyler Warren still he's probably their first, second option that Daniel Jones is looking at each week. I mean, last week against the Atlanta over in Berlin, he played well. I mean, that's and Atlanta shut down tight ends all season, and he was able to have a big game. I'd probably go to Tyler Warren and Hampton side of that trade.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit more upside on that.
Yeah.
5-5 though, it's tough. I don't think Amari and Hampton plays until week 14 at the earliest, is when I'm kind of thinking, because they have a week 12 bye. I'm assuming they open the practice window for week 13, and he has to play. I think he plays week 14, is what I'm thinking with him. So
Last
you're
week of
trading
the regular
away.
season.
Yeah, I think at 5-5, I'm holding. I think I hold DeAndre Swift. I think I hold Rondé Gadsden. I trust the guys that are going to be in my lineups. The Bears already had their bye. The Chargers have a bye upcoming, so that's something you're going to have to navigate. But I think that you hold these guys, and instead of waiting for Amari and Hampton to come back potentially week 14, most likely, maybe he comes back week 13. You still have a chance to compete for the playoffs, because 5-5 right now you're not guaranteed a playoff spot. And at this point, you got to get in before we can focus on winning the entire thing. So I think as far as that situation goes, I would lean to Swift and Gadsden. I don't think overall this trade is still incredibly close.
Yeah.
But I think you leave Swift Gadsden, just considering the fact you're 5-5 and working towards a playoff berth. All right, JC, our guy, is back tonight. Good evening, fellows. Herbert at Jacksonville or Hurts versus Detroit. What are your thoughts?
I'm going Herbert on this one. They've been playing well here lately. I mean, I know Hurts is that game should have some more offense in it and stuff, and plus it's at Philly. It is. So they're outside on that one. So not really too much to weather-wise that you have to worry about. I mean, that better conditions of playing. So I'd probably lean Herbert. My spreadsheet likes him as one of my best top 3 is for DFS this week. I'm probably going to play him a couple of lineups, but I'd lean him. Sooner or later, Philly's going to have to get Saquon Barkley going, and sooner or later, they're going to have to get this is a team they don't want the Detroit offense on the field. So I think they may be using Saquon a little bit more in this game, so that way Hurts may be less featured, and who knows with the passing game right now, all the issues they have with those wide receivers. And
I mean,
AJ Brown is not happy. Yeah. I'd lean Herbert, and he's playing a little bit better right now, and just the issues you have with the wide receivers right now in Philly.
Yeah, I think you go Herbert as well. Jalen Hurts is going against a really tough Detroit Lions defense that, they're one of the top 5 teams in passing DVOA. They've been really good against the run as well. This is a tough matchup for Philadelphia, and I think this one's going to be a low-scoring affair. I got the game at 20-17. I think Detroit wins it. But with Jalen Hurts, man, if he didn't hit on 4 deep balls over the last 4 weeks, I mean, this guy without the tush-push touchdowns has been one of the worst quarterbacks in fantasy. So, Hurts' production in this offense under Kevin Patullo is not where it needs to be. They're not taking shots down the field. They're not doing anything that makes me feel confident in this team long-term right now to be consistent.
Yeah.
I rarely tell people to bench Jalen Hurts because of that tush-push upside, but this is the week. You have Herbert against Jacksonville, one of the worst defenses against the pass over the last 4 weeks. Should be in for a nice game. I know the offensive line is definitely a concern, but Herbert's a guy that will get you 20 points, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. Around that range is what Herbert's floor feels like, because Kamani Vidal is going to have a tough matchup this week against Jacksonville. Jacksonville is one of the better run stuffing defenses, and on zone runs, which he runs 60% of the time, he's only averaging 3.9 yards per carry. So I think Los Angeles has a pass heavy approach, and that leads to a better day for him over Jalen Hurts. Back to Patrick's question, real quick. This is the rest of my team. I can flex Tet until Hampton comes back. Quarterbacks, wide receivers, CD Pittman, Land, Tet, Slayton. I still think you just play to win this week, honestly, with that team. You gotta get there. You gotta get to the dance first. Ultimately. All right, what up, fellas? Mahomes or Dak this week? This is a tough one, honestly. Very tough one. Who are you going with?
I'm going Dak. I mean, the Raiders defense it's probably the weaker of the two defenses that they're going against and stuff. And Mahomes, I mean, Sertan's out, but Mahomes still has to deal with the rest of that defense. I mean, that defense has been very good at home. One of the top teams in the league for sacks. I mean, he's going to be rushed all day long. Dak probably, I mean, it's on the road, but it's indoors, so you don't have to worry about weather or anything like that. And the Cowboys have to win now. If they don't win now, their playoff chances are probably going to be done before they even get to the Thanksgiving game right now. I mean, with the Chiefs, I mean, they're at the spot right now where there's some flex right now going with the AFC North division, so this game may not be as important to them for a playoff positioning, but division positioning, yes, they need to win this one to have a chance to keep up with the Broncos. But I'd very lean Dak this week just because of better matchup.
Dude, this is tough. It really is tough. Like the way that Mahomes has played a majority of this year,
Oh
it's
yeah, I
hard
agree.
to bench him. But like with Dak this week, off the bye week, he's averaging 23 points. He gets
Yeah,
Las Vegas, who, on paper, their pass defense looks good, but against good offenses or top 10 offenses, they've really struggled. You think about when they played the Chiefs a few weeks back, right? The
fourth.
Chiefs didn't even get stopped. Their starters were out in the third quarter.
Mhm.
The Raiders do not have a great consistent defense. They are a little bit healthier than they were against that Chiefs defense, right? But I think that Dak coming off the bye week, right? He's second in completion rate, or not completion rate, passing rate over expected. Heading into this week. And I think with Las Vegas, it's a matchup you want to target. Like Mahomes, I know a lot of you guys are like, oh, should I start Mahomes against Denver? I actually think the Chiefs will probably play pretty well against Denver, partly because Alex Singleton and Patrick Surtain are out. But this Chiefs offense is finally built to beat man coverage because they're healthy, right? The Denver Broncos run a ton of man coverage. And I think Andy Reid and company will have a good game plan off the bye. So I wouldn't hesitate about playing Mahomes. But obviously, Denver is a much tougher matchup. And maybe Mahomes just finishes for like 240 and two touchdowns instead of Dak potentially having that ceiling of
Yeah.
350 and four touchdowns, which I feel like is an actual, more likelihood that Dak does that versus Mahomes doing that against Denver. So if it's a toss up, you go with the guy with a higher upside chance. That's Dak Prescott. All right. Grade the trade here. Trade Goddard and Wando Robinson to a Tucker Craft owner. Other receivers I have are Chase, Puka, Rice, and Franklin. I mean, if you have Jamar Chase, Puka Nakua, and Rasheed Rice, you are going to be winning a ton of weeks, JC.
Should
What are
be.
your thoughts?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that wide receiver core should win games for you. I mean, you could be streaming your quarterback every week and still win with those guys right there. It's good solid floor every week. He's receivers, he received that. Didn't say who he got back on the trade. He just gave up the guys to the craft owner. Or did he got those guys from the craft owner? No, he traded 2. Okay.
He traded those
Yeah,
guys.
traded 2. Yeah. Giving up Wandale's not really that big of a deal. You got these 4 guys right there. I mean, Goddard's played well. He's probably the most consistent receiver on the offense right now, but, you got those 3 receivers right there, Chase, Puka, and Rice. You should be counting about 50 to 60 points every week and just trying to find pieces together to get you another 60 to 70 points to win the week. So I have no problem with that trade.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a whatever you got in return for that. I think
Yeah.
that those guys you have a receiver are going to take you a long ways this year. All right. Debo Samuel or RJ Harvey in his flex. He mentioned that I feel like RJ will have a neutral game script, and Debo hasn't done much with Marcus Mariota throwing the ball. What are your thoughts, Danny?
Deva's actually been hurt a little bit too, so even when Mario has been starting to. I'm going Harvey here. This is a better upside. I mean, that game environment. And if the Chiefs can't find ways to score, I mean, that's going to push that offense, and Harvey's going to be involved. I mean, Harvey's hasn't been too much on the rushing side of the game, but he's been involved in the passing game, and that's one thing he's really excelled at. And if they're down in a game, he's going to get in the passing game again too. I mean, he's been averaging a little less than I think 12 points a game just in the last 3 weeks, and he's only seeing 30% of the snaps. So that's huge right there on that part. Debo, who knows how healthy he really is, and with Marcus Mariota in that game, they're going overseas to play. There's so many other factors you don't just don't know. We don't know because you can be enjoying themselves too much over there and not too worried about the game. I'd probably lean RJ here, just the upside and just want to do the passing game.
Off the field distractions, bench Deebo
Exactly.
Samuel.
And it's true, it's true. I mean, everybody talked about having a Cleveland defense last week. They're going to New York City and play guys. I mean, their season's basically done. What do you think those guys are doing when they get a chance? They're going to go on a town a little bit. I mean, they're going to enjoy themselves, but they're still going to play the game. But they're human, and they're still human though, just like us.
I will tell you right now, being around it, on the baseball side of things, you
Oh,
are 100% right that these
yes.
guys are not just, staying in the night before and
Oh,
doing nothing.
no.
There are plenty of guys around professional sports that are going out the night before they have a game, or they're doing some stuff around the city
Yeah,
the days leading up to it. So
yeah.
I won't say that's the reason I mentioned Debo Samuel in this one. I honestly, I'm leaning towards RJ Harvey,
Mhm,
and it's in a large part due to, if you are kind of split between RJ Harvey and another player, and you don't play RJ Harvey, then what have you been waiting for the entire
yeah,
year? This is the time that he's finally going to get that snap share where he's going to be consistent. Like, he ranks top 10 in the NFL in fantasy points per touch. This
mhm,
is a guy that, with a bigger opportunity, finally could break into that role that we all expected him to have this offseason. And we were just kind of waiting, whether it was a J.K. Dobbins injury, J.K. Dobbins didn't play as much, like whatever it was. RJ Harvey, if you drafted him, this was the hope. And you
mhm,
have to play him now that he has that role. I don't like the matchup. Kansas City's been pretty good against running backs the entire season, but you also have to think that this defense against Bo Nix got pretty shredded. He has 6 touchdowns and 0 interceptions against Kansas City in his career. Obviously, one of those games against backups,
yeah.
but I think RJ Harvey is going to be in for a nice day. If you drafted him, you got to find a way to get him in your lineup if it's a neutral matchup. All right. Start or bench Trey Tucker this week? A rare, serious question from the GOAT. Deontay Thornton is elite or truther, however you want to call him. By the way, he also did ask if Myles Gaskin is a start this week. So he's still got his typical ones. But Trey Tucker, Danny, talk to me about his potential upside this week against Dallas.
They're playing against Dallas. I mean, Dallas is one of the weaker defenses on passing this season, and like we said, they're getting healthier as a team. I mean, and plus you don't have Jacoby Myers there taking up some volume with the passing game and stuff. So Trey Tucker's probably the main guy behind Bowers and that offense. And with the Cowboys struggling against passing teams, his opportunities this week is good. Um, it really just depends who you're starting to rest your is a flex position or wide receiver position where you're going to start. Trey's probably more of a flex type of guy, but if you're weak at receivers, I'd start him this week. Just the fact the matchup is pretty good this week.
Yeah, I love the matchup, and I know a lot
Mhm.
of people are going to be like, "Oh, Trey Tucker, his target share last week was lower than Tyler Lockett's. He disappeared without Jacoby Myers." Guys, that was against Denver, right?
Yeah,
This is the Dallas Cowboys we're talking about, where it's basically routes on air on a weekly basis right now on the defensive side of the ball. And Quentin Williams is not going to completely change how bad that secondary has been
no,
this year. I know the Raiders have injuries up front on their offensive line, and sure, they could affect potentially some deep balls to Trey Tucker, but I think that Trey Tucker is a very nice play this week against the Dallas Cowboys. He should have a sizable target share. He should be able to cash in on that target share, and he's a great wide receiver 3 if you're in an interesting spot, whether that's injuries or you just have a tough matchup. Like Ted McMillan, I know a lot of people are, you know, feel like they have to play Ted McMillan. I would consider playing Trey Tucker over Ted McMillan in some leagues just based on the matchup alone. And,
yeah,
Ted,
exactly.
who hasn't found the end zone in quite some time, hasn't, scored a ton of fantasy points because how bad Bryce Young has been. You're definitely in a handcuff spot. So with Trey Tucker, he's a great way to work your way out of that. And he's a pretty cheap player to have. A lot of you guys just stashed him off of waivers, and now he
Mhm.
has a pretty viable chance of having a strong performance this week. As far as Kamani Vidal goes, he is one of my must-sit guys. He has a tough matchup this week, and I think that he's been incredibly volatile. And looking at the deep analytics of the Jacksonville Jaguars, if Vidal does not get enough receiving volume this week, I have a hard time seeing a chance that he has a monster day.
Yeah,
All right, getting into the next one here.
right.
Flex help, half PPR, have a ton of options here. Jerry Judy, Parker Washington, Trey Tucker, Michael Wilson, Kareem Hunt, or Amari Demercado. Danny, what are your thoughts?
Let's see here. It's probably between Parker, Trey, and Michael Wilson. I mean, with Martin Harrison out for the week because of appendectomy surgery and stuff, he's probably the number one guy. Parker's played well here recently. If BTJ's doesn't play this week, Parker's value raises a little bit, and we've already talked about Trey with uh, should be the number two guy, but not offense right now, seeing targets and stuff. But I'd probably lean Michael Wilson just the fact that he's probably their de facto number one receiver right now with Harrison out, and he's probably the second looked at behind Trey McBride this week. Judy, it's just you just can't trust the Browns offense this season. Same thing with Hunt. I know he's going to get the start again this week, but he's not the Kareem Hunt he was when he first came into the league. DeMarcado, I li I know we both like him, and he's shown flashes, and he probably should be the guy starting in that offense, but it seems like the coaching staff doesn't trust him enough to give him the role. But I'd probably lean Michael Wilson 1, Parker 2nd, and probably Trey 3 or 2B on the 2A to Parker Washington on that part.
Yeah, I honestly I think I'm going Kareem Hunt here. The touchdown
Okay.
upside that he has around the goal line is just something I can't ignore. I know the matchup looks tough on paper. Denver's been very good, but the Chiefs face the lightest boxes in football. And against Denver, especially, they're going to be heavily focused on stopping that passing game. Kareem Hunt, he's going to get 14 carries, not going to be super efficient, maybe adds 2 catches. He's going to fall in the end zone. Like that, I think that with Kareem Hunt, he has a higher touchdown upside than probably I'd say 22 of the starting, 32 running backs this week. So I think with Kareem Hunt and half PPR, I like that upside. Out of the other options, Trey Tucker is a great guy to consider. We
Mhm.
just talked about him. And, Parker Washington, the Commanders allowed the second most yards to slot receivers this year. So definitely a matchup you want to target there. Complete apologies to our guy, Dougie G. I accidentally brushed over his question. Doug is the original GOAT for those of you guys that don't know. So this is a complete my bad on this one. Flex full point PPR, T. Higgins, Quinshon Judkins, or RJ Harvey. Who you going with here?
T. Higgins, and there's not a question on that one. It's just a matchup for this week. I mean, he showed out the first time against the Steelers. The middle net gains floating around 50 right there, and they're the underdogs in the game. So there should be a positive passing game situation for them for the week too. And push on. I mean, like we talked earlier, Baltimore's defense is getting a little bit better. RJ should get some opportunities, but Kansas City's defense can shut down the run and probably more in the passing for him. But Higgins' opportunity against the Steelers, they just can't guard outside guys, and more than likely, uh, Chase is going to be the focus of them trying to stop. So Higgins should have the weaker side of the corner, whichever cornerback the Steelers throw out this week on the other side of shoot, their best cornerback. I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Steelers
Heck,
cornerback.
yeah, Steelers.
They got Ramsey. They got Porter.
That's Porter, Jerry Porter Jr., yeah. They've been putting him on their best guys, so Ramsey actually played safety last week, and they've been putting him back safety, so Higgins is probably
Yeah.
still gonna be the guy to play this week.
Yeah, I got T. Higgins. T.
Mhm.
Higgins dominated this defense last time they played and matched up. We're gonna have a ton of passing volume in that game for them. I think with Quinshon Judkins, I'm a little bit lower on him. He struggled over the past few weeks, not really converting as much in the end zone. He played less third down snaps last week. RJ Harvey neutral. Start him, sit him for me. But T. Higgins plus matchup hot as of late. Bengals are one of the most pass happy teams in the NFL right now, actually the pass happiest team in the NFL over the last 4 weeks with Flacco. So I go T. Higgins. Appreciate you, Doug. Always looking forward to seeing you every week here. All right, Jelly of the Month. Welcome back, my guy. Matthew Stafford or Joe Flacco, 6-point passing touchdown. Danny, I might give a surprise answer here.
You're going Stafford. You're gonna go Stafford?
No.
No, you're going okay, I'm going Flacco.
Okay. All right.
Just
We're on the same
I
page.
thought you were gonna surprise me there with Stafford on that one. It's Flacco's a play on this one. I mean, there's not even a question on that one.
Yeah, I listen. Flacco's been on fire as of late in a 6-point passing touchdown league too. You got to play him, and you're probably saying too, like Stafford on fire too. Seattle's a much different opponent.
Yeah.
I think his floor is much more lowered, and Stafford has all the weapons at his disposal. Puka, Devontae, a good offensive line this year. Kyron Williams, like they have all the weapons there they need, but it's more of the matchup based thing with
Yeah.
me. Flacco, he's going to get 38 plus attempts. He's going to throw the ball to Jamar Chase and T Higgins against a weak Pittsburgh Steelers secondary That's the matchup I want to target if two guys are pretty neutral for me and don't have rushing upside. So I'm going to roll with Joe Flacco in this matchup. All right. Kyron Williams or Rashad White in the flex, Danny. Who are you going with?
Mm, Probably going Kyron on this one. Just the fact his floor is a little bit better. I mean, I know Quorum's getting some more play time and stuff, but he's still getting seeing 65, 70% of the snap. Rashad White is starting to lose some snaps to Sean Tucker, and Tucker's actually got the goal line situation there too now. So, and Bucky may be coming back soon. I'd rather go Kyron this week. So, yeah, it's Kyron's play. It's just a safer floor.
Yeah, I think I go Kyron as well too. Rashad White stopped playing as much last week. Sean Tucker, this was one of the biggest things. I had him as a must sit last week. Sean Tucker operated as that, more early down back before their bye week, and everybody was super high on Rashad White heading into last week. And I was like, guys, let's slow down a little bit. Sean Tucker played more than he had the entire year. And then what do you see this past week? Sean Tucker is playing
Yep.
50% of the snaps. So Sean Tucker is their early down guy because Rashad White did not cash in on those opportunities and struggled, was incredibly inefficient. I just don't know what his volume number is going to look like.
Yeah.
Kyron, tough matchup. I have him a little bit lower than I normally have him in my weekly rankings, but compared to Rashad White, I'm still starting him over him. We've seen Williams, despite tough matchups, like you think Philly, earlier this year, even though they've been a neutral run defense, but tougher run defenses, Kyron still has nice days, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's focused on slowing down the Rams passing game, not as much Kyron Williams at times. So Kyron, I think, should be in for a nice day this week. All right, Jason here, Kate Otten or Jake Ferguson this week. Danny, what are your thoughts?
It's Ferguson. I mean, yeah, maybe the Bills haven't been tested because they've been able to shut down tight ends this year and stuff. It's he's the number 2 guy that Dak looks for in the offense. I know, um, with CD back and, wow, I'm having a bad night with names. Oh, but yeah, he's the number 2 guy on offense. I mean, and they're playing against it's the Raiders. That's the thing. The Bills defense on the road. I mean, I know they're also on the road as well too, but the Ferguson it's still a better matchup in my opinion. I mean, you got you want to take chances when you can take chances of starting guys, but if you got a stud at the position, you start your stud. So Jake Ferguson's a stud at the tight end position. You start him this week. It doesn't matter who he's playing against, in my opinion. Otten's a good pivot, but if you got Ferguson, start Ferguson.
Listen, I'm not super high on, Jake Ferguson rest of season, but this week I like him as a start. I think he's a great play against the Las Vegas Raiders, who haven't been great against tight ends this year. And I know Ferguson's had 2 down weeks. I think he's combined for 8 total points over his last 2 games, but keep him in your lineup this week. Should have the volume to have a nice day. As far as K. Otten goes, like this is the thing I'm worried about. No red zone volume since week 5, right? He's getting a ton of passing volume over the middle of the field. Two yards per route run's impressive, but I don't trust it this week. He's not going to shred Buffalo. Travis Kelce, did he shred Buffalo? No, right? There's been no tight ends this year that have been successful against the Bills, and Kate Otten did this to us last year too. He had a very good stretch in the middle of the year and then dwindled down the stretch
Yeah.
towards last year because of his role in this Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense. I think with Kate Otten, he's more of a matchup streamer than a lineup lock. Jake
Mhm.
Ferguson is the guy that you trust more in that situation because of his, historic success with Dak Prescott as his quarterback, his ability to cash in earlier on this season. I think Jake Ferguson, you got to play him in this situation. All right, defensive question here: Chiefs or Chargers? Danny, who are you going with?
Hmm. That's actually a tough one right there. If the Chiefs were home, yes, it'd be the Chiefs. It'd be hands down with them. And I know the Chargers are on the road as well this week, but I'd probably lean the Chargers, probably just the fact that they're going against that offense, which has struggled here lately. I mean, Denver's played a little bit better offensively at home as well too. So I'd probably go Chargers. Just a better matchup as well this week going into, and the Chiefs have not been the same defense on the road as they've been at home. So I'd probably go Chargers this week.
Yeah, I think Chargers are my pick for sure too. I think the
Mm,
Chiefs defense is a little bit overhyped. They don't rush the passer with four well. I think that, Bo Nix could have a pretty nice day. I know he struggled this year against them, and I know I have my hesitancies. Like the Chiefs have a good matchup. Bo Nix has not looked good this year. The Broncos offense struggled against the Raiders. Like everything's looking up, but I just know heading into this game, the Broncos are going to move the ball, I think, at times in this one. So
mhm.
I don't know how much I can trust him. And it might at the end of the day, my worries might be over, way too much of a concern. Maybe
Yeah.
Spags is a great game plan, but the Chargers against the Jags this week are the one I want to target. Their pass defense has been really good. I know their run defense is a little suspect, but they get after the quarterback well. They slow down the pass, and Jacksonville's still in that top 10 range of passing attempts per game. So it
Yeah.
plays very well into the Chargers defensive hands. And we've seen this Jaguars offense, really struggle over the past 5 weeks. So I'm going to go with Los Angeles over Kansas City this week. And I know Kansas City's an enticing one. And we'll get into this one here. Eagles, Bucks, KC. If I had to go with a defense here, I go with, KC out of this grouping.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can't sit them there, but I have them more in that 8 to 10 range for defenses for me this week instead of like a top 5 play because they're playing a bad offense. I know the Broncos have not been good. I know they've looked really bad, right, over the past few weeks, and Knicks has not looked good, but there's something about this matchup that just tells me that Broncos are going to have a decent offensive game plan, and the Chiefs' problems along their front four will continue this week. Even though I think the Chiefs will wind up winning that game. You're in that same thought process though with these
Yeah.
defenses, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the Eagles. This is the matchup things on this week. I mean, Kansas City, like you said, Denver struggled a little bit here recently. Kansas City's probably still the better defense of those three right there. Eagles are home against Detroit, and Detroit's gonna be able to move the ball when they get a chance, and the Bucks are on the road in the snow, possibly too, at Buffalo. So yeah, it's the Chiefs.
Yeah, 100%. Patrick missed my follow up. Want to know if there's any difference in my trade question? No difference in the trade question. Just stick with your guns,
Yeah.
ride it out, right? Try to make the playoffs with the guys that are going to be healthy for you. You have a solid lineup, and hopefully that'll get you in. All right, Tez Johnson or K. Dotton this week. Danny, for me, I'm going Tez. I'm going Tez.
Yeah, I
It's
like
a
Test
better
too.
matchup on the outside for the receivers than it is at the tight end position for me. And I know Tez Johnson, his volume is a little scary in terms of target share, first read share, but the red zone volume is nice. He's
Exactly,
throwing a
that's
lot
what
of
it is.
touchdowns right now,
Hmm.
and it's not like the Bucks, I don't think, are going to get shut out. I do think the Bills are a tough matchup for how Tampa Bay is constructed,
Yeah.
but I go Tez Johnson over Kate Otten there.
Yeah.
All right. JC received AJ Brown
Good
for
run that
Wandell
trade.
Robinson and Dallas Goddard. I think
So
that's a
his wide
solid buy.
receivers is stacked.
Yeah, that is an elite group of receivers
Yes.
there. Feel bad for your league mates. All right,
Yeah.
let's rate Jason's team here. He has CMC, Rico Dowdle, wide receiver Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs. My two flex are Travion Henderson and RJ Harvey, tight end Jake Ferguson, Kate Otten, quarterback Patrick and Dak. He's got Debo, Samuel, Keenan Allen, Alvin Kamara, Xavier Worthy, and Trey Benson on the bench. 10-man PPR league. Rate his team. Danny, you'll go while I catch my breath real quick.
Yeah, that should be a playoff team right there. If this is the team you had at the beginning of the season, that you should be 7-3. What are we in week 11? Yeah, you should be 7-3, 8-2 plus with that team right there with the matchups you had during the season stuff, and you'd be able to move people around. Uh, you're a playoff team, and then very seriously probably contending for the title.
Yeah, I think this is a solid 8.5 for a 10-man for sure. I think
Hmm.
this lineup is really deep overall. I think one move you could make is getting one of those quarterbacks, Patrick or Dak Prescott, and trading them, right?
Hmm.
Whichever one, maybe. I think Mahomes' value is a little bit higher than Dak's, obviously, and you might be able to net yourself a nice receiver, from that, or maybe you target your running back depth seems pretty good. I think you could use another receiver, so maybe go try and get yourself another receiver, and that would make your team basically unstoppable there.
Yeah.
We're getting to the close to the end of the show, guys. So make sure you guys drop all those start and say questions you have down in the comment section below for this loaded week 11 slates. All right. Country
Well,
Boy Jazz. I like the name. All right. 12-man PPR. He's got Purdy Mahomes at quarterback. He's got CMC, Jones, Walker, Tucker, Benson, Rodriguez at running back, wide receiver flex. He's got Olave,
okay.
Diggs already played. He's got Pierce, Jennings, Ayuk, Terry Burden, tight end Njoku, Waller, defense Rams, Packers. I think he's asking to rate the team, Danny. So, what are your thoughts on the squad here?
It's 12 team. It, he's pretty solid at quarterback. I mean, Mahomes has been able to carry him and played well so far with as Purdy has got healthier, and they have a better probably playoff run for the use this year. I mean, CMC has been one of those guys you've been able to get late in the first round, early second round, and it's probably been an early first round type of guy. Um, and same with your tight, looking at tight ends too. It's if he's played the right
He
guy.
wants to know who he starts at each
Oh, who
position.
he starts? Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, rated it. Okay.
I could go through this and do a quick run for
Oh,
you.
yeah, go right ahead. Yeah, I'd see Mahomes, CMC, Jones. You've already played Diggs. How many wide receivers? 2 wide receivers, probably Diggs, Olave. Your flex is probably Jennings this week. Tight ends Njoku because Waller's out, and I would go the Packers defense.
Yeah, I got Mahomes at quarterback. I think that one's a lock. CMC is a
Mhm,
lock. Out of your running backs, I like Aaron Jones. It's nice to
mhm.
have Trey Benson potentially coming back soon.
Yeah,
Should be a nice boost there. You start Olave next to Diggs, so you got all your base players there at tight end. You got to go Njoku. You don't have another option there. Um, as far as flex goes, it gets a little
yeah.
dicey there.
You can get Pierce or
You gotta
Jennings.
go
I like
Jawan Jennings. You gotta go
yeah.
Jawan Jennings there, in that position. He's actually been pretty good over the last 2 weeks, and he's definitely, trending in the right direction there.
Mhm.
So, Olave's on a bye. I'm stupid.
Oh,
Forgot
is
about
he?
the Saints being on a bye.
Yeah,
So
they're
I
on a
would
bye. Okay, then so yeah, it's probably Jennings and Pierce is probably your one wide receiver and one is your
well,
flex.
Pierce
So
is P Pierce is on the bye too, so that's like
Indy. Oh, yeah,
yeah,
shoot, that's
so
only 2
you're
teams. Okay, I had to look at. Shoot. Oh
it's
my.
risky. It's because I don't wanna trust Kenneth Walker if I don't have to. To be honest, a sneaky play this week would be Sean Tucker against Buffalo's run defense.
Yeah.
I think that one would be give you the best chance of having a higher upside. I know Luther Burden's a guy that I had trending up heading into this week, and a really nice player with Olamide Zaccheaus struggling. But Sean Tucker is getting that early down work. Buffalo
Yeah.
can't stop the run and save their lives. I think Tampa Bay knows what they have to do to be successful against Buffalo.
Yeah.
Sean Tucker could be a nice play. As far as like you know, Chris Rodriguez, I don't really love Chris Rodriguez this week. Three-man committee and a bad offense is never a good sign. Kenneth Walker's going to have a bad performance this week
Yeah.
against Los Angeles. He hasn't had a good one in quite some time. So, to be honest, I think you're looking at um, probably Sean Tucker in that
Sean
situation. As
Tucker,
far as
yeah.
defenses go, you got to go to the Packers. I
Yes.
know the Rams. I do like them to have a nice defensive day, but against Seattle's offense, you just sit them this week and you go Green Bay in that situation. All right.
Okay.
JC's question here. No Jonathan Taylor this week. He's starting Rico Dowdle and Woody Marks. How are you guys feeling about Marks this week, half PPR?
Love
I
him.
already said I love him. I mean,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts?
Same, love him. I mean, matchup is great. I mean, he's already performed what he can do against them. He's already showed what he can do against them already. So yeah, just put him in there. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, listen, I think he's going to do great against this Titans defense. 80% snap share last week. He's scored 27 points against these guys last time. You should be great at the running back position this week. Two favorable matchups for both those guys. Should be in for a nice week. What would you rate my team? I'd say that team's pretty solid
Yeah,
for a 12 man for
very.
sure. Obviously, you got to get some guys healthy. I think it's a solid 8. I think if I were to make a move, I'd probably go target another wide receiver. You're going to get Trey Benson back, which will be nice, but having another guy to mix in there and a higher upside guy. I know your tight end position, you're kind of waiting for Waller to come back and maybe like a 12 man Theo Johnson's probably gone. If Harold Fannon's sitting there, I like him a little more than Njoku. Uh, so yeah, those are my tiny upgrades. What would you think, Dan or Danny?
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's probably so. It's you just need somebody there just if Njoku goes down because Fannon's been cutting into his playing time this year. I mean, there's somebody like let's see here. Higby's actually played well here. You need to pick him up or something like that. I mean, but yeah, probably another. I probably a better number one wide receiver. Those guys are probably low end type guys. If you could maybe trade somebody a combo trade and get like a higher number one guy, then the team would probably be definitely pushing the spot for the championship this year. But definitely a playoff team, just what you have right there.
Yeah, 100%. All right. Standard league flex one, T. Higgins, Emeka Egbuka, or Kyron Williams. I'm going T. Higgins.
Yeah,
Going
even in
T. Higgins
standard.
out of
Yeah.
this
Hmm.
grouping. I know it's standard, right? Kyron Williams is probably the, you know, more sought after play in standard formats, but T. Higgins, he's going to be a touchdown machine this week, and you really have to consider playing him in almost every standard league too. Like
Yeah.
it's standard, his value jumps up even more compared to some of the other guys in terms of half PPR and PPR. With Kyron, man, no rushing upside, I don't think, against Seattle this week.
No, no.
All right. Jason here. I love being 8-2 and having Stephon Diggs and Travion Henderson. He's up 51.8 points. You got the
Good
Patriots
start.
D. Hey, Thursday night football, having a nice day to open up your week is definitely a great feeling,
Oh,
but
definitely.
there's no worse feeling than seeing that on Thursday night and just knowing your week's already screwed before it even started is having those guys on Thursday night just go
No,
off
but
against you.
what really stinks is they're having guys like that and still end up losing the week. A couple years ago, I had the Carolina played against Pittsburgh on a Thursday night game. I had CMC. It was his second year in the league. He just went nuts that year, and I had Juju. They both had huge games. I still lost that weekend because I can't remember who. He had a quarterback wide receiver combo, and they went for like 60, and then just neutralized the two guys I had on Thursday night. So yeah, you get scores like that Thursday night, you feel a little better, but the still fantasy football. Anything can happen on any given Sunday, unfortunately.
Anything can happen on any
Yeah.
given Sunday. I mean, my worst fantasy experience is playing Alvin Kamara in championships, when he
The 6
scored all those
touchdown game?
touchdowns.
Oh
That was a
god.
nightmare, dude. That was an
Yeah.
absolute nightmare. Being in championships and losing to Alvin Kamara that year was disgusting. It wasn't just one league, it was multiple leagues that it happened to me in. So
Oh, I was
it was
helping
a
a
rough
buddy, and
one.
he was in one of the big money leagues and stuff, and we had Calvin Kamara, but we was already knocked out of the playoffs, so it didn't matter.
Yeah, he destroyed a lot of dreams, on
Yeah.
that Sunday. Well, this is the conclusion of our Week 11 start and sit fantasy advice. If you guys have any sort of questions you did not ask, heading into this one, we'll get to Country Boys 1. Drop it on my
Yeah.
Twitter tomorrow. I'm gonna be active all morning answering questions. I'll be up before the early game tomorrow, getting that start and sit stuff out there for you guys. So drop your
Yeah.
questions there. I offer 2 trades pending, Chase and Chain for CMC, Diggs, and Jones. Second offer, Baker and Nico and Williams for my Diggs and Jones. Would you take either deal? Pat Diggs, Jones. Chase and Chain for my CMC, Diggs, and Jones.
It's tough. They're pretty even. There's no.
Yeah,
I
they are
don't.
pretty
Yeah.
even.
Yeah, pretty even. I don't think it's just enough to say, yeah, I make a trade on one of those. I think I'd stay.
If
I
you could
would
get
probably
Chase, if you get
fine.
Chase, Chain, and maybe like a wide receiver through like Trey Tucker or something
Yeah.
like that, that trade would be a very good deal.
Yeah.
Baker and Nico and Williams.
Diggs and
Honestly,
Jones.
Baker, Nico, and Williams is kind of nice for Mahomes, Diggs, and Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah, the second offer is pretty good. So I would
Yeah.
consider that one, even though I'm not super high on Baker, but you could stream your quarterbacks a little bit easier
Mhm.
than streaming some of your other positions. All right. Well, hey, listen, we really appreciate you guys tuning into this episode. Me and Danny will catch you guys next week here on Blitz Sports Media.
There, gang.